Hello, and welcome to this Real Estate Fund Intelligence webinar on real estate valuations in today's market with our guest, Billy Procida. I'm Will Moyo, a senior reporter on REFI Global, and I will be hosting today's discussion. A few housekeeping notes before we begin. Should you wish to ask a question, please use the question tab on the control panel, and I will try to get around to everyone. There is also a Slido link on the bottom of your screen, www.slido.com, with the event code REFI Webinar. The recording of this webinar will also be sent around to all attendees in the next few days, so you can listen back to anything that you may have missed. Now, I'd like to introduce Billy Procida, President and CEO of Procida Funding Advisors. Billy has financed, fixed, and built over $3 billion of real estate during his career. He currently manages the 100 Mile Fund, an open-ended private investment vehicle that was established in 2011. Billy is a well-decorated player in the real estate market, given his around 40-year career in the industry. Thanks for joining us today on the webinar, Billy. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing okay. I got my sanitizer, my mask, my gloves. I need a haircut like everybody else. And I gained 5 or 10 pounds. But other than that, you know, hopefully we get through this thing and we get through it soon.
Yes, couldn't agree more on all those fronts. Billy, I think, to get started, it would be great to tell the audience a little bit more about what your company does, where you act, where you focus on, and then we'll really get into, the real meat and bone of today's discussion.
Well, I basically have had 2 cycles of life in this business since 1980 when I got out of high school. For the first half of my career, I owned a construction and development company. So we rebuilt, we were the biggest builder in the South Bronx and Harlem for quite a while, ranked in the top 200 nationally. Ran that company with my brother and sister and my little brother. And then for the past 25 years, I have predominantly focused on using my construction and real estate development skills, running a lending and private equity platform that does everything from loans to equity joint venture. And we do an awful lot of heavy construction, high rise, mid rise, you name it, as well as a small to mid size business specialist. I think the one thing, because I know we're going to spend a lot of time on value, is the 100 Mile Fund's my 3rd fund. And the first 2 funds, we invested pretty much anywhere in the eastern half of the United States. And we did rely on appraisals, though I did see every asset. When it came to my last fund, and frankly, the only fund I'm ever going to run for the rest of my life, the 100 Mile Fund, which is an open-ended fund, I decided, because I'm getting older, that I'm not getting on planes. And plus, whenever I got on planes, I wasn't as smart as when I went by car. Really simple. So when we devised the strategy for the 100 Mile area, I said, okay, I'm going to be able to see every asset 2, 3, 4, 5 times before we invest or lend. So I think in this, where the world's going, you want to be local. You want to stay where you know. And just I want to just point out one thing. I have enjoyed my relationship with REFI magazine. I think I've published 20 or so articles dating back to the late 90s with you all. Thank God you all proofread them for me because I can't spell and my English ain't so great. But it's a great publication. Your events are great, and I'm still honored. One of the greatest awards I got was the Non-Bank Lender of the Year in the United States by you all a couple of years back. So thank you for having me.
Of course, thanks for being a part of this webinar. I know, we would all much rather be having a conversation like this in person, but of course, adapting like everyone with everything going on in the world.
Personally, I'd rather be having it at a bar, shoulder to shoulder with you over a cocktail.
Well, one day. So I want to start. I want to start big picture, and there are a lot of interesting things going on, and a lot of numbers that are being thrown around here with this COVID-19 pandemic. U.S. oil prices are at the lowest level in more than 21 years here in the U.S. Government stimulus money is being handed out, and we're seeing across some European and Asian markets, they're beginning to slowly reopen. So, Billy, I think to start this conversation would really be great for you to kind of give your take on the global economy and where you see everything is playing out right now.
Okay, so let me tell you what I don't understand about gas, and then we'll talk about stimulus. I remember when gas at the tank was hitting $4. I think it even hit $5 for a little bit. And since I was in high school, and I remember waiting on gas lines, seeing I just got my license, and you had to wait online for gas. Well, you were probably in diapers back then, but you literally had to wait online for gas for an hour. So other than it hurting the super wealthy gas companies, $1 a gallon gas, particularly since we're all going to be driving everywhere for vacation for quite a while, I think, but $1 a gallon gas is good for us, ain't good for the gas companies. So do I care? I don't think so. And I think it's a distraction, by the way. Yeah, I understand that when the gas pummeled at the same time the virus came out, there was this big, upheaval and values of the gas companies came down. But I really don't care about the gas companies. I care about us, right? On the stimulus side, there's a lot more that's going to have to come out because I don't know who's going to bail out the cities and states but the federal government. It used to be, the joke was, and I'm 57, so the joke was for the past decade that we're leaving this deficit to our kids. Now we're leaving it to our grandkids. So hopefully the stimulus money comes out, but comes out smart. Like, I was not a fan and frankly did not realize that Harvard University, which has got billions and billions and tens of billions in endowments, applied for a stimulus grant and got like 20 million bucks, or the maximum. I think maybe it was 10 million bucks. Shake Shack, which is a public company, got 10 million. Thank God they gave it back. But we need to help my plumber down the block. He didn't get anything, and that's wrong. And the little restaurant down the block didn't get anything, and that's wrong. So the stimulus, look, any money that comes out of the government's got a 20% tariff on it all the time, good times or bad. So only if you're lucky, 80% of the money that any government gives out actually gets to the people that are supposed to have it. We're still really early in this. I hope it doesn't get politicized, but obviously everything gets politicized these days. But the sooner the government stays consistent, the sooner we'll get back on our feet. And, we talked about this last week, but until somebody can tell me when we're allowed to go to a professional sports game, and I don't care if it's with a mask or without a mask, and until we know when we can go to a restaurant and when we can have a wedding, I don't know how you figure out the trajectory forward. But I'll give you some thoughts on it.
Yeah, so Billy, I kind of want to take it one step further. I know you've been very active over the last months or years, saying that a potential black swan event was coming, especially since we were in the longest economic expansion. It seems like just about a month or so, we were still in that expansion. Then it seems like the COVID-19 pandemic, which has just reached 2.4 million global cases and over 759,000 here in the US, has halted the market. Billy, was this your black swan event? I know you weren't able to predict the specifics, but is this what you are going to label as the black swan event in the market? And how has this pandemic had an impact on specifically the real estate market?
All right, so let me just, because your last question I didn't finish on, I apologize, was the world economy. How's the world economy going to hold up? The same. We are all in this together. So we're all going to have to slug this out together. Maybe we'll stop having wars, and maybe we'll stop screwing each other over. So all you're going to have right now on the world thing is hope and sanity and reasonableness. So on the Black Swan, look, as you know, I have this little thing I do called Billy Ball, which is on the web. So I guess it's kind of a webinar or a podcast or whatever they call it. And in August of 2019, and by the way, I've been saying since 17, and you've published some articles of mine on the subject, that we were bloated, we had too much free debt, we were back to 2004, 5, and 6. And in August of 19, I said a black swan will come. Why? Because they're always out there. They just don't land all the time. You know, the idea of a black swan is it just doesn't come out of the blue. They're out there all the time. There's still more black swans out there. I pray to God they don't land today, but don't sit here and think the only problem we got is the virus. So the recession was going to come. And in August of 19, I said the market will go to 20,000. Why? And I don't own a stock. I never have in my life. But it just seemed that 30,000 was too much. And it felt like 20,000 was the right place for it to be. The same way when it went to 14,000 or 13,000 in 06 and 07, it seemed that was overinflated. So the recession was out there. All the virus did is took the covers off of it. And it wasn't that hard. Did I think it would be a virus? No, I thought it would be financial fraud, which is what it usually is. It was the S&Ls in 87. It was Wall Street in 5, 6, and 7 exploding in 08. So it's usually financial. This one's going to be very, very different because what we need, forget value, forget everything. Until everybody's willing to kiss and hug, and forget what the government says we're allowed to do and not allowed to do. Until you're all allowed and you all believe and you want, look at the human race loves to roar. You go back to the days of the Colosseum, right? Ancient times. Humans love to get in an arena and roar, whether it be a ball game or a concert. We love to roar, and we love to drink and party. And that's why we go to work. All of this BS. See, I didn't curse. I told you I would not curse. Yep. All of this BS that they keep saying, we want you to go back to work. Well, as I've said, if you tell me I can go back to work, but you tell me I can't have any fun and party on the weekends or go to a ball game, what the hell is anybody going to want to go to work for? So it's going to be up for the first time to each individual and mankind and humankind as a whole to say, because look, if we don't find a virus, it's going to be out there, right? If we do find a virus, there's another one that can come. So, you know, I don't want to use the term mankind anymore because it's not gender neutral, but humankind, I guess, is what the human race, collectively, worldwide, we have all got to come together and say, all right, it is what it is. You know, on my last Billy Ball, I said, I want to see what the Europeans are going to do, because I know you got a lot of Europeans out there in the audience. When they tell you you can't have your football, which we call soccer, because you people are crazier than us about football, and we're pretty crazy, but you all take it to a whole nother level. So, you know, and we look in our portfolio, I have concert venues. We got one of the best concert venues on the East Coast in the Met in Philadelphia. We've got wedding venues, plenty of restaurants and stuff. And until we're allowed and we're willing to embrace the idea of this too shall pass, one. Two, you still can't, we still have 38,000 people a day dying of starvation. So, this virus is bad. People are dying. That's terrible. I feel for everybody. But, I heard a guy on one of the shows say they, many more people die of car accidents than of this virus. So if they told you you couldn't drive anymore, what would you say? So the black swans, hopefully there won't be many more. Mother Nature has been a bit of a, I don't want to say the word, but Mother Nature's pissed off for sure. And what we got to hope is, in the US at least, that we don't have that big of a hurricane season. We always have the fires in California we got to deal with. So, and then look, we still got wars, we still got terrorism out there. Now you got a deficit to choke a horse. So, I thought the 08-09 recession was bad, but by the way, it wasn't really as bad as, from my point of view, as what happened after Black Monday, October 19th, 1987. Because we basically went down and real estate kind of just hung out for like 7-8 years. It took to get all of that overfunding by the SNLs, because they were funding construction mostly. It took a long time to absorb all that product. So that recession, in my opinion, in real estate was 7-8 years. The 08 real estate kind of came back by 2010. So that wasn't that long a recession. This one, the government's going to try to push us out of it with stimulus, all the governments in the world. But this one will not work. They could do $100 trillion. If the human race is not willing to get over the fact that this stuff, you know what I was going to say, happened. It happens. And it's going to keep happening. And you can either put your head in the sand and not leave your house ever again, or you're going to say, screw it, I'm going out. And yes, for the first couple of months, I'll wear the mask. I got my mask, I got my gloves. But I don't see women going to the beach or guys going to the beach with a mask and gloves. And if they don't let us out on the beach this summer, there's going to be World War IV.
Right.
Sorry if that was long-winded.
No, totally fine. So you're kind of going on what you were talking a little bit about with previous downturns and kind of the return back. What have past downturns taught you about how to navigate right now, through the market, especially with your borrowers? What are you able to use from back then to help you business-wise, continue on through this market?
Well, if you were fiscally undisciplined before this, you're not going to last, right? And if it would have been a different black swan, you weren't going to last. And if it was a simple recession, you weren't going to last. And by the way, there are people, it's people and business. If you have saved enough, and certainly by the number of years, the 20 to 30s is different than the 30s to 40s, different from the 50s to 60s and 60s and up. If you've saved enough to carry yourself for a year and you live below your means, this could go on for another 6 months and you'll be able to pay your bills, and hopefully you do pay your bills, right? If you are over leveraged, personally or corporately, and undercapitalized, no matter what recession hit, you are not going to make it. And this gets into a very tricky area as relates to who do we bail out and who don't we bail out. Because why bail somebody out that was about to go bust, right? If you were about to go bankrupt in January, giving you government money our money, taxpayer money. I don't care what country you're from, right? When the government says we're going to give you money, it's our money, right? That's where they get it from. So the old school stuff, what grandma, grandpa taught you as a kid, right? Don't have all your eggs in one basket. Save up for a rainy day. So when you ask, what have I learned in the past? It really goes back to grandma and grandpa was saying, save up for a rainy day, right? Don't live above your means. You know, one of my favorite things I've ever seen was, I'm not going to take a responsibility for this quote. It was some guru kind of doctor, and he said, mankind, we've become a society as a group that buys things with money we don't have to impress people we don't know.
Right.
Right. So I think that going forward, that's going to be an issue. I don't look until you can go to a black tie affair, you're not going to go out and rent a tuxedo, and you're not going to go buy a new dress. Right. So what I've been telling everybody right now, and this goes back to what I've learned over the years in good times, because see, I've always been a freak about profit and loss analysis monthly. I drive my staff crazy here because I want P&Ls, 10th of the month, the latest. I want to see where we are. And then I'm constantly reevaluating our income projections. And I'm always trying to contain overhead, right? So you got to always match overhead and income, right? In my Billy Ball in December, I told her, right, when you're doing, tis the season, wasn't the shop, tis the season to get your projections together, which I've been doing every year since I got out of high school in 1980, both personal projections and corporate projections. So I said in December, do not assume your revenue is going up. I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule. And I said, do not also assume you're going to cut overhead substantially, because there's a balance between you. If you've been in business for a decade, this last decade, and you got the right team, right? Remember, values go up and then they go down and then they go up again.
Right.
So if you want to take advantage of opportunities, which will be abundant, but don't be a vulture. I personally think they should just shut down every stock market in the world for 2 weeks, because all they are now is gambling. It's just a big casino. Is it going to go up today, up tomorrow? They ain't doing. Nobody's doing anything to help the world, right? With gambling in the stock market today, they should shut it all down. Let them all go home. You want to talk about a non-essential industry? Stockbrokers.
Right.
Shut it down, right? But let me talk about something that's very important to me. Now I'm starting to see, I just saw, I got my phone, I'm watching some of this BS going on. There are now seminars on vulture investing, right? I don't care what country you're in. Being a vulture is about the most miserable thing you could possibly be doing right now. We in the finance and business world, particularly my world, I'm a private lender. I don't do more than, I never have more than 35 assets, maybe 40, 50 tops in my portfolio, which enables me to see them all, touch them all. My team, we are the doctors. And that's how you got to get your head into this. If you're a money folk out there, if you're an investor in a fund like mine, please tell them, do not be a vulture. Help people. Frankly, you want to last long in life, the more people you help, the longer you will stay in business. There's an old saying, be nice to people on the way up because you meet them on the way down. Nah, I don't believe that one. I changed it. Be nice to people on the way up because one, it's the right thing to do. It's just nice. Be nice to people. But two, if you're nice to enough people, and they don't forget times like this. They keep you up. You're not that smart.
Right.
I'm not that smart. I'm not doing good. Look, I was doing great last year. I'm doing okay right now, but I'm not doing okay because I'm that smart. It's just I've tried to, and everybody in my company knows this. We never say the words here in good times. We never say the words, we can't help you, ever. You say that, I flip out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you really want more than ever to be kind, to be loving, to be caring. And remember, we, the money people, are the doctors and nurses. So let's just go do our job. And the better we do our job, the quicker we get out of this. But being a vulture ain't American, it ain't human.
Oh, thanks for that. Now I want to focus in a little bit more, really dive into real estate valuations. And with some non-essential businesses beginning to open, I saw, some non-essential businesses in Mississippi that are going to begin to open up beginning today. Kind of curious how, from where you sit, you would value a building, during this pandemic, and how a correction process, could potentially look, once these businesses really start opening up again.
Well, first you got this question of essential, non-essential, which is all dictated by the government, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw that the governor of Florida said that wrestling is an essential business, I was like, you got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me that now, what's that? That's lobbyists, right? That's just pure lobbyists, right? So, the concept of essential, non-essential, and look, I'm a golfer, but they're permitting private golf courses to open up.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that, look, the health part of this, the life and death part of this is hard. But the who's essential and who's non-essential seems so subjective. So let me give you where I am on value. First off, you got to understand something about valuations. And this is what I was saying at the beginning. I am not a big believer in appraisals. Now, do we do them for every deal? Yeah. But who's the ultimate appraiser in my company? Me. When you call yourself a chief investment officer, I only know one way to do it. Okay, it's probably, in Greek mythology, your greatest strength is your greatest weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have still $3+ billion of loans and investments. I mentally cannot make a deal on any piece of real estate without seeing it at least once or twice, my team seeing it, meeting the borrower, and then I make my own opinion on the value, and I go see the comps, which is why investing 100 miles from where you work and grew up is a benefit. Because you got to remember, there are 100, 200, $500 million projects that are done based on an appraiser. And I don't care if it's Cushman & Wakefield and CBRE, they're all great companies, but the person doing the appraisal could have 3 years of experience. He could be out of college 3 years. And he could have grown up in Wisconsin and be doing an appraisal in Florida. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know how anybody who's not from Florida could appraise a property in Florida. I mean, I couldn't appraise a property. I have in Wisconsin. We built a beautiful high rise next to the state capitol in Wisconsin. And in fact, I valued it here. It ended up being worth this because it was one of a kind. There was no comp. So when you get into valuations, and let's talk appraisals, appraisals take a like kind group of assets that sold or leased in the last 3 months. Well, you got nothing trading. And if it is, it's either old or it's a very, very, very distressed. So only thing you can do, in my opinion, is, and we've done stress tests on our portfolio, assuming, right now our stress test assumes our worst case. We got a best case, worst case, is that pre-virus values return by December 21, right? That's 20 months from now. If they don't, we might have bigger issues than my little fund, or we're going to have bigger issues. And different asset classes, depending on how humankind decides how they're going to live, right? So wedding venues, are people going to go to weddings? I pray to God. I got my daughter getting married, hopefully sometime this summer. If and when people are willing to go to them, then the hotel and the wedding venues come back, along with the event business. And you guys, look, Will, you guys throw great events. I'm trying to go to one of your events. I'm sure if you want to throw an event, your lawyers are going to say no way. So you got a couple of factors, and we happen to have a bunch of event venues. One, will people going to be willing to come? Two, are your lawyers going to let you throw the event? And remember, you guys published an article I wrote in 2010. It was called "It's Okay to Get Back in the Water," right? And I equated the 08-09 recession to a shark attack, which is really what this all is, right? And I happen to watch Jaws. And I think even the people out there in Europe watching and all over the world, everybody, if you never saw Jaws, watch it. You got plenty of time. You're sitting at home, right?
Right.
But it's, the beach is packed, shark attacks, everybody runs. It takes one person to get in the water, and hopefully they don't get bit by another shark, right? Before the second person, and then the third person, and so on. So whether it be concerts, some band is going to have to say, we're playing. Whether it be what you guys, somebody's got to step up and say, we're going to have a real estate event. And there's the tricky part. So what did we do? We went and said, okay, December 21. Now, if you have loans that were at 70, 75 LTV, loan to value, and by the way, you guys also published 2 articles called The Mysterious V that I wrote, which is the V is value. And, value has so many different things, because you could take a piece of real estate. Let's just stick with real estate, but I think it's the same for anything.
Okay.
Is you put a piece of real estate or a business in one group's hands, and you put it the same thing in another group's hands, and a year later, one will make it worth this and one will make it worth that.
Okay.
So do not forget. I mean, look, the classic is, you take all these retail companies get bought by private equity, right? They were founded by somebody who ran it for 50 years, right? They got a bunch of quants with computers, which, look, if one thing happens, I hope they throw computers out. All computers do. I mean, it's fun for Facebook, and I like Zoom now because I see my kids and my sibling. But I always said, when it comes to business, the only thing a computer does is takes a shitty deal. Sorry, I had to say one.
It's all right.
All it does is take a terrible deal and make it good. You know why? Because you go, if I move revenue this, click, and if I move expenses that, click, I'm going to create a wider value in 3 years. Well, all great on the computer. And the reason why when I started in the 80s, nobody did that is because we had to use a pad. And your people on here that are under 40 don't know there was a thing called graph paper. And you used to handwrite in your rental projections. You used to handwrite in your overhead. And if it didn't work, it didn't work. You didn't go back to the computer and say, let me use Excel and I'll tweak this by 1/8% per year. So over 5 years, it's this. And I'll tweak expenses down by 1/4%, and look at all the money I make in 5 years. So the whole thing about a recession is usually clears out the bad people, pure bad people.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly clears out bad managers. And look, we're going to see some frauds because look at, you go back to 87, that took the covers off of the SNL fraudsters, right? And that's why dozens of chairmen of savings and loans went to jail. You take the subprime crisis of 7, 8, 9, that took the covers off of Bernie Madoff and Tom Petters, who was the number 2 fraudster in the world, who I helped put in jail, and there was a movie about it called The Second Fraud. So every time there's a crisis, it takes the covers off of bad people, bad managers. So the thing I'm watching for most, though, right now is NFL football. And I don't know your Europeans when soccer starts or your football starts, but if we don't have football, that's a game changer. Now, I'm hoping we have it as a late start, but I will pull out one. We had our shareholder meeting last week by video, but I showed you this before, but I'll just put it up real quick and let's see how anybody can read it. But I can circulate this if you want. But value assessment, I concluded as follows. The optimist thinks we will have football in September. We'll get some concerts in and the beaches will open by mid-July. And life will return to normal towards the end of the year, and we'll have an okay Christmas and Thanksgiving. Moderate says schools don't open in September. They open late. Colleges, high school. NFL starts late. No summer concerts. And social gatherings of over 20 people don't start till September. Then you got so many variations of the pessimist. You got the doomsday people that are going to lock themselves in their house. They're going to put tinfoil on their head because they're thinking the next thing coming is the aliens, right?
Right.
And they might as well just lock themselves in their house and put the tinfoil on their head because I can't even talk to them. But the idea that the California governor said no sports until 2022, I mean, so, but here's the thing, going back to the vultures, going back to investing, going back to value. If you think that you're just going to go buy something cheap and it's going to miraculously go up, remember, particularly people that are in the debt business. If you buy a loan today at a discount, I don't care what the discount is. You go into a judge, and I don't care what the country is, and tell that judge you're foreclosing. You bought a loan at a discount, and you're foreclosing on some guy or girl that's been in business for 20 or 30 years. And just because of the virus, you're foreclosing on them. I don't think judges are going to be very kind or quick to help you. Plus, again, if somebody's been running a business for 10, 20, 30 years, what makes you think you're going to run it better? So even if you're not a good person, being a vulture makes no sense right now because you're never going to get through a court to get possession. And you need management. And look, we bought, I don't know, somewhere between 500 and a million and $1 billion of debt. I can count on 2 hands how many I actually foreclosed on. And the ones I did foreclose on, biggest pains in my ass ever, toughest work ever. The 98% where I sat down with the borrower or the operating partner when I bought equity shares, and I said, hey, what do you want to do? How do we get out of this? Now, by the way, flip side, if you're on the other side of it and you're a managing member of a company and you got lenders and investors, be transparent. Be reasonably positive, but practically positive. You know, I got one guy who's got a greatest asset on earth, but it's a venue, it's a summer venue, and he's hell bent to open by Memorial Day. And I said to him, I just don't see spending a couple of $1 million. I go, this July 4th, maybe we'll make July 4th, but let's not overspend. So by the way, you know what he said? No. He said, I'm open. You know what I'm doing tomorrow morning? I'm getting in my car. I'm going to drive an hour and 20 minutes, which is why you want to always be 100 miles from your assets.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to talk sense to him. And the fact that I'm going to go drive there is going to show him that I care. And that goes back to being the doctor and the nurse. So that might have been a long-winded answer to your question. I apologize again. I tend to get a little long-winded on these things. But here, I'll show you because she got a kick out of it. And by the way, folks, I got no staff here at the office, so this is really low tech. Okay, so here's a chart. Let's see. I got it?
Yeah, that's good.
Let's go that way. Okay. So these are the cycles since I've been in business. And I think if I'm pointing right, this is the 87.
Yep.
And then this is the 2007. So these circles are the hyper peaks and the hyper valleys. Well, the truth of the matter is neither of those circles were true. They were, from an appraiser's standpoint, they were true. These were actual sales. And these were actual sales. But like anything else in life, you take a direct line and you get intrinsic historical. So all you get here in the pinks is perceived. So every peak and valley is just perceived.
Right.
And the perception is liquidity pushes values up, greed pushes values up, lack of liquidity and fear pull values down. So hopefully we find our equilibrium and our human courage sooner than later. That's kind of where we're at.
So you answered a lot of great things there, Billy, and I know I'm cautious of time here, and just want to see what questions are coming in. So I have one more, and then again, if anyone in the audience has questions,
I'll answer a shorter version so we can get to the audience.
No worries. So one thing, I'm curious in how fund managers, someone like yourself and others out there can talk to investors, both institutional and private investors, about what's going on, given the lack of real precedence of a pandemic having an impact, on the market, and kind of, what would you say to those in similar positions of yourself on how to move forward with this, the next weeks, months, and years to come?
Well, look, my new favorite saying, but let me go to my old favorite saying for the past 40 years, which worked for me for 40 years, and I think it's working now, but I can't be sure.
Mm-hmm.
My saying has always been panic early, panic often, and you never have to panic. Now, when you're self-employed, you own your own business, you're responsible for investors' money and for your employees' well-being, which now has a whole different significance. It's not just their financial well-being, it's now their actual health.
Mm-hmm.
But Louis Pasteur, the famous inventor, had a saying that chance favors the prepared mind. Right? So think of it. Chance favors the prepared mind. Well, prepared business, prepared person, the prepared mind. So look, what are we doing? We're telling all our borrowers, redo your P&Ls for 19, redo your for 20, redo your P&Ls for 21. Impute what you know already happens. You lost all your business for March, most of it.
Mm-hmm.
You lost business in April, and we say assume you're going to lose business for May and part of June. So, because the most optimistic thing is July 4th, we're halfway, whatever the hell halfway is, back to normal. But get your HR in place. Keep in touch with your employees. Keep in touch with your customers. And I don't care what you're doing. You can run a corner delicatessen, a little restaurant. You can run a chain of restaurants. You could be building a high rise. You know, we got a lot of construction we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we know we're going slower. By the way, the good news is when you're going slower, you're not drawing as much on your loan. So there'll be some savings in the interest line, but there will be an elongated period. So you got to get in there. And by the way, if you're, I know a lot, REFI magazine has a lot of pension funds and types. Your fund managers got to get off of their ass and into battle.
Mm-hmm.
This is battle. And I'm not talking battling your operating partner you gave your money to or battling the borrower you loaned money to. The battle is keeping everybody prepared, because particularly if you got seasonal, if you're going to open on July 4th, you better have staff. You better have your marketing in place. You better have everything in place. Because if you got only till Labor Day to make money, you better move fast. But even every business, the more prepared you are, the better you're going to do in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And the quicker you're going to get out of the box. And by the way, you're going to see a lot of shifts. Companies that were underperforming or lagging their competitors may jump up if they're wired tight and ready. So my slogan is chance favors the prepared mind. And I still wake up every morning in a panic, which is why I've survived 40 years without a default or anything bad ever happening to me. So
hopefully we keep that going for you. Now we have some questions coming in. First one, Billy, do you think it'll make, something like this will make commercial real estate brokers less relevant in the market?
Good professionals are always needed. Look, the one thing a recession does is it weeds, as I said, it gets rid of bad people and hacks, right? And for Europeans out there, I don't know if you know what a hack is. A hack is just somebody that's not professional, that's winging it, that's not good at what they do. So, real estate brokers, I think, and look, by the way, I'm a licensed real estate broker. It's the only license I have. I didn't go to college. I've got no other license, a driver's license and my broker's license, which I only got because Mayor Koch and the first Governor Cuomo gave it to me when I won the New York City Developer of the Year Award as an honorary thing. So there are a lot of assets that are going to have to be repositioned and leased and sold for a whole lot of reasons. So brokers are always going to be valuable, and they always have been valuable, the good ones. But here's the bigger thing about brokers. The smarter the broker is, the better he's going to do, he or she's going to do, and the better that you're going to do picking the right one, because tomorrow's real estate broker has got to figure out, what do I do with this asset? It's not just going to be, I got an office building, let me put a picture up, let me do an email blast and sell it. Because by the way, the word cap rate, which I hate the word. I hate the word. By the way, just so you all know out there, I went from 1980 to 1990, built probably $500 million of buildings. I never heard the word cap rate because nobody used the word cap rate. This was an invention of Wall Street cap rate is the biggest BS in the world because it's based on the underlying credit of a tenant, which can go. Look, Neiman Marcus might go bankrupt. At one point, they thought Neiman Marcus was a 3% 3 cap. Do all your stuff per foot. But the broker of tomorrow, and look, there are some great ones out there, will be the one to say to their client, this has to be remarketed as another type of asset, repurposed, and do the analysis because the conversion from a shopping center to a warehouse, which I think we'll see that. The broker of tomorrow will work with, and the smart ones, and they already have, work with a developer, a contractor like me, who can say, yeah, I agree, it can get approved. Here's what the construction costs will be. Here's how long it's going to take. And then the broker imputes his best guess, her best guess, on what value will be. So to answer your question, good brokers, good everything. We are going to be the doctors and nurses. And by the way, remember, where there's doctors and nurses saving patients today, there's also janitors sweeping up. So it's everybody. And our industry, we're going to have to do better than we've ever done, possibly for no income. You all realize we may have to work for free for a little while. And that's okay. Because if we get to the other side and values pre-virus return, we can all go back to our cushy lives, right? So,
no, perfect. Next question for you, Billy. Do you think U.S. commercial property values will fall more now overall compared to the last downturn in 2007?
Well, and by the way, the one thing you haven't heard me say is that's a good question. You know why? Because I'm tired of watching TV and every politician, everybody. That's a good question. They're all good questions, guys. Look at, okay, I might get in trouble with your European and international friends here, but the United States is still considered, and I've been around the world enough, but it's still considered the best place to invest. And as long as it's the best place to invest, it's always going to have value. That word value has a different meaning today because we've never seen a non-trading market. Look, you can press a button and there's a value to the stock market every day. It may be bullshit, but every day, at the end of the day, or in the middle of the day, doesn't matter what time of the day, there's always a value. Because you press a button and it's based on somebody willing to, and think about it, somebody's willing to sell and somebody's willing to buy in a nanosecond, right? Real estate, how am I going to go do an inspection on a building today? So real estate's not going to trade for at least another 60 days. Not in any significant way. I think I read this morning there's already 3 million home mortgages in forbearance. You got 15 million or so people unemployed. It's going to take 3 months after that for all of that to trickle out. But look, real estate, wherever it is in the world, right? It's a fixed commodity. There's only so many buildings. And by the way, there's only so much dirt. So, and look, and yes, by the way, I'm jaded, and there's another word for what I'm thinking. I've been in real estate for 40 years. It's all I know. But you know, when I was a kid, again, going back to grandma and grandpa, it was always food, clothing, and shelter. In that order, by the way. Nobody ever said shelter, clothing, and food. It was always food, clothing, and shelter. Those are the three basic themes that you learned from your grandparents. So do I think real estate's going to go down? Certainly there, again, it goes back to if people were already fiscally undisciplined and not good managers back in 19, then yeah, they're going to lose their property or they're going to have to sell it cheap or whatever. But I certainly am not going to want to sell anything this year. I'm going to, and by the way, will I be a buyer if I have to be? I want to be a helper. I don't want to be a buyer. I don't want to be a guy who goes, yeah, I just bought for 50 cents on the dollar. I ain't that guy. And by the way, I don't think any of us should be that guy. And by the way, if you meet that guy, tell him he's up.
Mm-hmm.
You can translate that if you later on if you want.
All right.
But right now, we just got to get through every day and be prepared. Be prepared. Sorry, next question.
Nope. So, Billy, this is the last one, and if someone, another question comes up, feel free. Billy's contact information are on his website, Procida.com. The last question we have: if you're a multifamily property owner, when do you resort to selling a portfolio property to obtain liquidity and have a more favorable cash position to make it to the other side of the recovery?
Oh boy. Tough question. I got so many. I mean, thank God I don't even think we have any current. We're building about $100 million worth of multifamily right now. But I don't. Oh, and we do have a little bit of multifamily occupied. Look, if you got Section 8 or you got government vouchers, just hang tight. There's going to be an issue when you got 15 million, soon to be 20 million people unemployed. You're going to have an issue of rent collection. Now, the government should get involved in anything. There's a tricky issue. And by the way, I know the question was about multi, but think about office and think about retail, think about everything else. One of the things they're not talking about, and I'll be brief, I know this was the last question and we got a time limit. When they said, let's get back to work, let's reopen America, there's one thing nobody's talked about. If I have a restaurant or a deli or a store or whatever, and I've been closed for 3 months, and now you tell me I can open. Well, first thing I got to do, I can't just go open. I'm not going to just go open. The first thing I got to do is call my landlord and say, what are we doing about the last 3 months? Rent. And the landlord can't give me an answer because he's got to then call the bank. And God forbid his lender's a CMBS lender. They got a manual this thick just to answer your phone call and say hello. So the challenge of reopening America is going to go, one, the landlord's got to be smart enough and compassionate enough to say, let me try, and then he or she's got to call the lender. And the CMBS services are going to have to take that manual that's this thick and throw it out the window. When I worked as an advisor to GMAC in 08, they had a manual this thick. The first thing I said was, we got to make this 10 pages. It's okay to have it this thick when you got a couple of bad loans a year. When you're talking millions, you got to rethink your process manual. So if I have multi now, number one, I would do an assessment of your tenants. Are these people that need food stamps? I'd help them get them. Do they need government assistance? I'd help them get that. Look, the first thing we did as a firm was we volunteered one of our asset managers for free. All he did for the past month was help with government grant applications. So, and I know the question was about monetizing, but I wouldn't think about monetizing because the grass isn't greener on the other side. And I don't mean the other side is the other side of the recession, but too many people think, oh, I'll sell this and I'll go buy that. Well, you already know your asset. So, and in multi, one of the challenges is most multi owners don't know their tenants. When I built 10,000 units in the Bronx and Harlem in the 80s, I went around shaking everybody's hand. I wanted to know everybody. Had a couple people didn't like me. I think most did like me because I was a guy in a suit that cared. So I would not be so quick to sell your multi. I would be very, okay, I was going to say the word aggressive. I don't mean aggressive in a bad way. I would be aggressive at getting to know your tenants. You know, start by the way, I know they're supposed to send you rent checks. Start by sending them a turkey. Send them a $100 gift certificate to a store. You need to keep those tenants because, by the way, if you're going to go try to sell a multi in June or July or next month, you're going to have there's 50% of your tenants aren't going to be paying. So you're going to be selling during a depressed, artificially depressed window. So my suggestion to you, if you have multi or any other asset, because office and retail, same thing, get to know your tenants, see how you can help them. The quicker they start paying, the quicker your property goes back to its pre-virus value, and the better off everybody will be for it.
All right, Billy. Well, we have run out of time as we had predicted we would, because you were able to say so much. So just want to quickly thank you for taking the time this afternoon, and thank you everyone that attended this REFI webinar. In case you're interested in rewatching my conversation with Billy, more information on how to view the recording will come out in the next few days. Our next webinar is on April 23rd on the European residential market, followed by one on April 30th on managing apartment portfolios through this pandemic. All upcoming REFI webinars can be viewed at refi.global/events. Billy, this was a blast, and thanks for taking the time to speak with us today.
I hope I get to visit Europe soon. Love it over there. I'm Italian, and I hope and I wish all of you, both in the US and Europe and wherever you're watching, truly, I wish you really good health and peace and love and happiness. And this will be over soon, hopefully sooner than later. God bless.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, Billy. And thank you, everyone. Stay safe and stay well.